Hi there and welcome to Stamping in the Barnyard. I am so glad that you have joined me today and I'm excited to share this card with you. It's an easy card even though I think it looks a little bit more complicated. I hope that while you're here you might drop a comment and let me know where you're from. I'm always excited to see from around the world even people who visit my channel, and especially I noticed the other day on one of my videos somebody was visiting from Australia, and as I was able to visit Australia in March and meet a couple ladies, I was excited to see that, and I'm kind of hoping some of my new friends maybe checked out my channel, so please let me know if that's the case. This card looks great because it's sort of a 3D, perfect for the Beautiful Gallery suite because you've got the frame and then you can indent the flowers. I just love that look. And this is these are the two stamp sets that you can get in that suite. Of course, you can buy the bundles separately, but those are two of the stamp sets, and I use the words in from that stamp set. And I have a couple other cards that I'm hoping to share on my channel in the next few days that are, I just think, really nice with the same suite and some of the other stamps from both of the sets. The other reason why I really like this type of card is because we get a lot of our DSP now is coming in this 6x6 size, and this card practically uses the entire 6x6 piece, which I'll show you in a minute. But before I do that, I just wanted to remind you that if you look in the description underneath the video box on YouTube, you should have all of the information to prep to make this card and watch the video at the same time as I put this card together, and then you will have all your pieces already prepped. And you'll see what I mean by that, because here, for example, was a 6x6 piece. This is going to make you guys sad when I tell you how we're using it. Yes, I did do puzzles in kindergarten. Okay, so this is how the 6x6 piece is originally. The first thing I do is I take off 1/2 inch because our cards are 5.5 inches to fit in our medium-sized envelopes. And then I used the Textured Notes dies. You have a lot of different dies that you could use for this, but I use the Textured Notes dies to cut out this rectangle, and that's because you get these frames, you get two different sizes of frames in your in the dies that coordinate with the gallery blooms. And so here's an example of that die, and it allows for you to cut out with that textured dies, and then you can put this over it and it all fits and coordinates together. So that is how we use that 6x6 piece, and we're going to use this size. Now I had a different print that I used here, but I don't have any more of that left. I made these cards with a bunch of ladies as we visited a historic artist in our area, a museum there, and then we made up some cards and had really just such a fun date, and I hope to do that again sometime. So the next thing that you want to do would be to take your 6x6 piece. You actually wouldn't do it in that order, so I am going to put this back so that you can see the order that you would put this together. Now we would have already cut off that 1/2 inch piece. Once you've done that, you have the 6-inch piece at the top of your scoring board, or you can do this on your trimmer if that's what you like to do. And then you're gonna score at 1 inch and at 5 inch. So in other words, 1 inch from either side, and that 1/2 inch and 5.5 inches. So that's 1/2 inch, 1, 5, 5.5. Okay, at that point you can center the die on here between the two. In fact, I like to, when I'm putting the die on, I like to go ahead and first burnish those sides so that I can see that I've got the center. and then cut that out. And then we're ready to go with that. So that's how you would prep your top piece. I'm just gonna put this here. All right, so then we're gonna take the bone folder, and we're gonna go ahead and fold this in down away from, and then we're gonna fold this one toward. Well, they should both be 3.5 inches, I mean half an inch. I don't know where I got 3.5 from, but half an inch. So they should kind of measure up and meet at the other side. Just love how our bone folders really do give a nice edge. So now you've got this look. It's pretty neat, huh? At the same time, you are going to take your frame. Now, this card is different, as I said, because I'm using a slightly different designer series paper from the same pack. So I've swapped out, this is the pecan pie piece, and I've swapped that out to use the crumb cake piece to go with this designer series paper. So that's the difference that you can see. So I am gonna go ahead and put this on, and I find the easiest way to do that is to take my liquid glue and just run it right on the outside of this, because I know I have room to put the frame on top if I just put this close. So that's what I'm doing. Just make sure I have enough glue for it to adhere. And I should tell you that after I cut that out, after I cut the frame out with the die that comes with the Gallery blooms, there's also an embossing folder that comes in the suite. And so I did emboss this first with that design. It's just a very, it's, you know, just perfect for an art gallery design. It's got kind of an oldie worldy look to it, I think is the best way to describe it. Hopefully you can you see that, how the embossing is here? Anyway, so then we're gonna go ahead and put this on, and then I'm gonna put this aside here. And the next thing we're gonna take is, now I have, this is, so it's gonna be 6 by 6 out of the designer series paper. And in this case, I used the very vanilla, but you could use Whisper White depending on what you thought coordinated best. Not Whisper White anymore, is it? It's Basic White. And I think there's maybe a Winter White. But I've already scored this. So this is, I'm sorry, not 6 by 6. This is 5.5 by 6. And we scored it exactly the same as we did the designer series paper. 1/2 an inch, 1 inch, 5 inches, and 5.5 inches. Only this time, we are going to not cut anything out because it's going to be the back of this card, and we're going to stamp here in this center. So I am going to get this flower here, and I'm going to ink that up with crumb cake. For a big stamp, I always like to turn the ink pad upside down so that I'm confident about the coverage. It takes courage sometimes to the coverage to get the whole ink stamped. Now I am trying to center it, and the very bottom of this stem is going about 1/4 of an inch above the bottom of the cardstock, because you want to be able to see the flowers particularly through the window. So that's what I found works best. So you can see that this crumb cake, it looks dark at first, but it's probably going to lighten up a bit, but you want it dark enough to be able to see through here. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my watercolor pencils, which I love, and this does have a bit of the Calypso Coral in it. So I'm taking the Calypso Coral, and I'm just going to color at the bottom of my flowers. And if you've watched any of my other videos where I am using my watercolor pencils, you'll recognize my method of coloring, because I like to color up at the bottom, like color at the bottom of a petal, and then with my Wink Stella I bring those colors up. So here I'm going to do this. Now I have somehow managed to misplace the actual gems that do come with the, I don't know if I'd call them gems, but the embellishments that come, because they're kind of an old antique gold circular. They're really nice, and I did get them, but as I said, I've misplaced them somewhere somehow. So I'm going to be using the Drusy, I think, some kind of Drusy embellishment, and they're real pretty too. They really shine with gold flecks. Well, they have gold and clear / silver in them. Okay, so that is the Calypso Coral, and now I'm taking the Old Olive. If you know these colors very well, it will make sense to you that these are kind of have a more antique-y kind of feel to them. Let's see, these are leaves at the bottom of the flower. It's easy to confuse parts of the flower with these leaves. But so on the flowers, I put it at the bottom and draw it up, but on the leaves, I kind of just do the outside outline. And I'll do this here. Again, not quite sure if this is a petal or the petal or the leaf. And then I'm going to take my Wink Stella. Who doesn't love Wink Stella? And then I just draw this Calypso Coral, right? Yeah. Up, and so that gives you kind of a gradient, and I do try to leave a little bit of the vanilla showing in the background. But this keeps it from looking like lines. If you look here, you're going to see that with this circular motion, you no longer have like lines like you've just drawn in there. And then you can like bring it up, but I just don't bring it up all of the way. I find the pencils very affordable, and they have, let's see, there's 13 and 10, 23 of our colors that can be found in there, and a lot of the colors can be used used with even more colors because they're actually in that color family, if that makes any sense. Like I like to use Coastal Cabana with Summer Splash as well. Okay, so that is our flowers, and now I'm going to just do our leaves here. And you can see that it gives it some depth because the green isn't completely solid. Leaving, again, a little bit of the background vanilla, in this case, white if you were stamping on white, and it gets rid of your marks that you've drawn with the pencil. There we go. All right, so that looks nice. I'm happy with that. And the next step is really easy. Now that you've stamped that, I'm going to just show you how quickly this card does come together. So now I'm going to put some glue on this flap here. Wing flap, I call it different things. Tab. And I prefer to adhere one side at a time. That way, if you need to fiddle with it, it's a little bit easier to do if you're only fiddling with one side and you don't want the glue to dry before See, the other side would be drying while I was making sure this was lined up. So that's why I do it that way. Okay, so that's adhered, and now I can do the same thing to this side. Just so happy with this card. Hope you guys like it too. Let me know in the comments if you like the design. And you can use this kind of a fold with all sorts of cards, but I just thought it was perfect for framing a gallery bloom. And of course it does still fit inside your envelope, because this, you can just push these in and shut it, and this would fit exactly inside one of our envelopes. In fact, it's 1/4 of an inch short of the envelope size that we use, but it's thicker, so it's going to fit perfectly for that. So there, you can see how they're framed real nicely in there. And before I do any more, on the outside of this frame, I want to use my embellishments. And so here you can see, I don't know how well the camera picks up just how shiny those are. I love them. They're part of another suite. I don't remember which suite, but I know they're part of another suite because I just ordered some more today, while there's a half price off your second similar item that comes from a suite. So anyway, I'm gonna take and put some of these embellishments on the inside. As I said earlier, I did misplace the embellishments that come with this set, and I also just threw my scissors somewhere, and I don't have my take your pick. Well, I do, but I have the wrong attachments for it. Okay, so this is the old-fashioned way with my scissors and my snip. So I'm going to take this nice big piece here. You don't want to get your fingers on the back of these embellishments, because it will take away their stickiness. So I'm trying to figure out where I want this. I'm going to put this one here. I want to be sure that it can be seen well through that window. And then I'm going to take, there's 2 sizes of these Drusy embellishments, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do 2 down here, and that's because I plan on using my greeting on this left hand. Oh look, that's what I did before. You know, isn't that funny? I didn't know. I wasn't looking at this to decide where they go, but now that I see it, I think I will put my other one up there. You know, I do believe in 3 as an artist design concept. I think I am going to put it just that little bit over here. So it's very similar to where I put these. Yep, almost exactly the same, but I'm happy with that. And now we've got these outside pieces. So I already stamped and die cut these blooms, and I love how they kind of make a corner like that. Now I could put that there and then put my sentiment here, but then I've put my gems there. So I'm going to do the same thing that I did on this side, and I'm going to make them go there. I'm going to color them in the exact same way. I'm going to take my Calypso Coral, and I'm just going to go around the flowers and pull them up, pull up the color from the pencil into the tips of the flower petals and get a gradient and softer look, leaving a little bit of the very vanilla showing. And so after I do one, I'm gonna do the other, but you'll see too how quick it is to color these in. It actually takes longer if you color every last inch of them, and I think it looks a little more realistic if you have some of that light showing through. I mean, that's the idea, is that if you leave some of it white, that's like a reflection. you know, nature's reflection, how the sun would reflect, or any kind of artificial light, anything. It's just reality, folks, just reality. All right, so go back to our old olive. Just come here. Outline it so you can see that's all I'm doing again. And that'll be enough, I'm confident. And I love that, like, even though you're drawing the lines, once you use that Wink of Stella, you can also use a blender pen. But I find that the Wink of Stella gives me a little sparkle too. But you'll see that it takes away the look of a line of a pencil once you pull it up with either the Wink of Stella or the blender pen. Okay, so that's what they look like before I use the, oh, I'm going to show you a before and after. I'll do one and then we'll compare, and you can see how that looks. And I really do want them to be softer colors because I think that's more in line with sort of an antique look and the color of the paper. I'll get that over here so you can see how soft that is. You can always add more color, but you can't take it away if you've overused it. So I'm a big believer also in the circular motion. So afterwards, once you have those pulled up, you can do that. I did not do these leaves green yet, so I'll have to do that. I missed them. That's the other reason why it's good to go over it with a blender pen or a Wink of Stella, because that's when I noticed that the other day with another card I did on a video, that until I went over it with the Wink of Stella, I had not noticed that I had missed a leaf in whatever image that was. Now, if you were a good girl, you would wipe, or boy, male, female, whatever. Didn't mean to confuse who should be using stamps and pencils. But if you're good, you'll wipe off the previous color before you start using the next color. Sometimes I go darkest to lightest on purpose so that if I do just switch without wiping it off, I'm usually covered and there's not too much of a problem. Okay, so now finish up this. There we go. So now looking at them, you see the difference? So now I'm going to finish these up, and I'm going to start with the green because that was what was on my Wink of Stella. And then I will wipe it off before I go to my soft Calypso Coral ones. You can see how it's not a, you don't even have to be exact, especially if you want that watercolor look. If you go outside of the lines a little bit, that's okay too. I need a forgiving art. There we go. So now those leaves are done. And we're gonna pull these up again. I wonder how this comes across on the video itself. If you can see the differences that I can see close up, the sparkle coming out with the Wink of Stella and the soft lines. In fact, I'm wondering if I'm getting a little, I'm gonna just over here in the corner, make sure I'm squeezing it a little bit. You have to be careful with your Wink of Stella and only squeeze it over scrap paper initially, because it can come out faster than you're prepared for. And then you got a silvery mess on your card. Whereas if you have a mess on some craft paper, you're not going to be as disappointed as if you just spilled it all over your masterpiece, especially if you're nearing the end of the coloring, as I am now. There we go. All right, so there we have it. Now you can, if you like, I tend to trim these up a little bit, take away some of that vanilla, but as we're making the video, and because I don't think it's essential, in fact, I didn't do it here, so I'm not gonna worry about it here. But see, we're gonna put these on now. Love them. You know what I'm gonna do too with my Wink of Stella? I am going to, even though I don't really color the centers, because I don't know, for some reason I think they don't need it, but I am gonna sparkle them. So I'm just running my Wink of Stella over it so that they sparkle too. There we go. All right, now, oh, I just love this. And I do think it goes really well with those Drusy. Okay, with those Drusy embellishments. D-R-U-S-Y. Okay, so these flowers that I think kind of frame pretty well really do sort of do this L shape, or this, in this case, a reverse L shape. So I feel like I can put these on like this and fold it flat for it to adhere, and then do the same up here. This liquid glue, I know a lot of people find it hard to work with at first, but there really is a learning curve, and it does adhere so well. A lot of them over time, and if there's a lot of heat like we have here in Florida, other adhesives will come apart. And I don't want to mail my card out to somebody and have them open it up and find out that it just fell apart when they got there, when it got there. So, okay, so there we have it. Isn't that pretty? And wasn't that quick? Now, I used the Thank You for Everything stamp for this one, just on a little piece of rectangle, and it comes from that other stamp set bundle that's in the Beautiful Gallery suite. And here I put Thank You for Everything, but I've decided I'm going to put You've Been on My Mind, because I have a particular person in mind for this card, and she has been on my mind. So I am going to go ahead and adhere that here. Probably right there. So I do think about who's going to get a card before I put those greetings on. I usually know who I'm thinking of when I make a card. How about you guys? Is that true for you too? Okay, so there you go. You've been on my mind, and thank you for everything. And I thank you for watching the video. Leave a comment, give me a like, that would be great. Thanks, bye.